Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader. Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager. I have a special guest today. She has more letters behind her name than I can probably spell. She founded Fulfill to Be. We're going to talk about what that's all about. She has a history with PepsiCo, Frito-Lay, Alcoa, MRA, a whole lot of great history. She runs her own firm these days and is changing organizations and changing lives. And I know that especially because I know her and who she is. Welcome to the show, Kendra Dodd.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you so much. You know, we were talking about before, you love narrative, you love the backdrop. So give us just a glimpse of what's the backdrop of Kendra Dodd.
Oh, it goes far back, but I'm proud to be a GRITS. I don't know if you know what that acronym is. Do you know what that acronym is?
Tell me what it is. Tell everybody.
GRITS stands for Girls Raised in the South.
All right. That's opposite of me. I'm a man up north. I'm a Muppet.
So you can get paraphernalia down south, but also if you don't know, grits is a Southern cuisine. Have you had grits
absolutely.
before?
I've had. You know, okay. I lived in Arkansas for 4 years.
Okay.
Remember that?
Okay. So yes, I do. So I do love grits, but thank goodness in Minnesota we finally found where we can get 5-pound grits.
Where do you do that?
Literally. It's a restaurant market. It's called Restaurant Depot. 5 pounds of grits. Yes.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So tell us the backdrop of, who you are. You've really have this passion for helping people discover their purpose. We're going to look at that a little deeper, look at your company a little bit, but tell us about what's that like? How do you help someone discover their purpose?
You know, I think the biggest thing is when I help people discover their purpose is we literally go through an exercise. I call it the narrative. And ironically, some people say 7 is the number of completion. I'm not big into numerology, but it's 7 chapters. And the first chapter actually starts with before you were born. And we actually go through each chapter. And the first chapter is what was the backdrop before you came? Right? What was going on? And here's the thing, that's for everyone. And some people are like, well, I don't know that story, or, my story, I was adopted or I was in foster care. That is still the story because that is still a part of you, right? In that story, because even part of that, I've heard people that are amazing within that story and that backdrop that have done amazing things and they haven't seen that. So we actually start in chapter 1 all the way before they were born. Of the backdrop. And then we go all the way to present life and where they are and looking at what I call a C moments. It's an acronym. It stands for significant events and experiences. So we go through each chapter and we look at before you were even born, chapter 1, what was significant? What was the, experiences? What was going on? And then we look at the themes of that, because what you'll see and what people will realize is that sometimes even they talk about like even a rose, like in the thorn, right? As beautiful the rose is the thorn, is that even in those challenges, if you look at the backdrop, you'll see there's themes of your purpose and where you are.
I love it.
Right? As much as I fought not to do, I am the biggest introvert you can ever meet.
Wow.
David.
And I wouldn't know it.
So I am. But father of a cop and my mother an educator, it's kind of there, right? Of who I am and, who I was created to be. And I think the more that we get to understand that, the more we can be assured of it and know that if we go in that path, there'll be better success than what we ever can try to do for ourselves sometime, which I could do that.
That's you kind of like, I think there was a TED Talk that talked about the flow. You finally found the flow. And I think we all have this thing of almost working against it sometimes. Like, I don't want to do that, right? Like, I even had this thing, I don't want to do a speaker. That's the cheesy, motivational, light, whatever. And, now we do all this research, we do all this, but like, if I'm a speaker, they're going to say I'm a motivational speaker. I can't be that. And now, it's a core to what we do, of course, and what I do, and really who I am when I am at my best. But it's, I still don't want to be a cheesy motivational speaker, but there we go. So,
exactly. I like what you said. I like flow. I like that word that you said.
Well, I think that's interesting. Boy, I'm going to jump all over here today because I think it's interesting to everybody, and you've been a leader and really developed leaders. How you did say something that hits a topic of the day. Your father was a cop. You are an African-American lady. Would I say that correctly? Is that
whatever that makes you feel comfortable? As long as this second to the child of God, I'm good.
That's right. Well, I'm saying that for listeners because people know what happened less than a year ago in Minnesota, and you've helped me, and you've certainly helped others in this diversity and inclusion. I love how you say it on what you do. You add the word belonging, but I think you have a significant perspective for people on how this challenge of the last year help us understand how we can think about that and how we can be better humans and better leaders.
Very good question. I ironically, and I wasn't thinking, I spend some time early morning. I'm an early riser. And kind of the theme for me today was grace. And my theme was got grace. Mm-hmm. You've heard of the got milk, it's got grace. And I think what happens is that we start having these judgments of these expectations of others, and we forget that they're human. And so therefore we don't provide grace. And trust me, I mean, even from a year ago or things that's happened, that we all have been provided at some time, some luxury of grace, right? And then if we learn how to exchange that and give it, I think it'll be better. And I think that's the biggest thing that happens in leaders, right? With expectations, I think that's challenges. I've worked with leaders and they get offended. They feel disrespected. What you do is you insert grace. Or another word is empathy. Right, is the ability to be empathetic where that person comes from. And I think that's the part that's missing because you're trying to get through your own hurt. But if we going back to that narrative and figuring out what triggers you, then it won't hurt so bad. Right. I think that's probably the key issue that happens with leaders is that you're trying to cover it because you don't think, there's the buzzword probably 10 years ago, transparent leader. Right. But it's very important, kind of going back to where you are with the trusted leader. To trust the leader is being transparent, is being clear. And I think that's missed sometime within their actions against their words. Right.
And I like what you said about empathy. It's a topic that needs to be dealt with. And I think you help us well. And I certainly didn't mean to say this is who you are in a bucket, but most people will only hear it by listening. And this gives someone a perspective, who we are, what we look like, our color of skin, our backgrounds. Right. But you've helped and are helping organizations, big ones, some of the biggest in the world, with diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And yet I think I've even seen, in June when this horrible murder happened in Minneapolis and all kinds of things happened across the country, there seemed to be, I had my trusted certified coaches were reading, we read White Fragility, we read this, we read that, we were learning, and, we try to be intentional about that. Back 20 years, I can say the ways we're intentional, and that's not an excuse or a real affirmation, but I've already seen maybe a little less interest, maybe a little less care, maybe a little less importance, maybe a little less budget, maybe a little less vision on creating belonging for all of our people. Let's just even take our people in our company or our domain, not all people. Let's just, fine, we'll make it simple. Those we touch. And I think with a whole lot of learning and development, keeping things fresh and moving forward is a challenge. But how do you do it with this work? How do we keep, how do you keep this a rollout? I know you're even known for rollouts of diversity and inclusion,
Yes.
but how do you
Yes.
keep it rolling, right?
I would agree to all that. And the biggest rollout, I think the biggest thing is that I think it's human nature is to size ourselves up against the Joneses and our neighbors across the street, right? Well, this company is doing this company is doing that, which goes back to, okay, where are you? Right. So really spending that assessment, I believe for people that come in that say, well, I've done this and I've done that. I'm like, did you ask the people about it? Well, it's great work. It's only great work if the people accept it. And I think that's the biggest challenge that I see in these rollouts are the opportunity of it because we're not starting where you are. And here's the thing, don't believe anything I say. That's someone told me that a good mentor of mine told me that. But at the same time is you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. And I think once people realize where I am and what we need, like there's organizations, you'll see the change of, yes, I add belonging. And you'll see this migration of, you might not need diversity. You don't have to, who says it has to be DEI? Who says it has to be DEIB? There's another one that's come out, DEIA, advocacy.
I think it should be whatever. T.
What is T?
I think it should be diversion. I think it should be inclusion and trust.
There you go. You can. Yeah. You so can do that. And there's no rules. And I think it's amazing. There's this one organization I'm working with is that it's like they have to force the diversity out. And there's some history with it. Once again, like, why are people getting triggered by that word? Of course, I researched it and why and try to find the reason why. It was a challenge for people. But yeah, you can make it equity. And see, equity isn't for all. Equity has to do with only leaders because you can't make people equitable unless you have the power to do it.
That's a great, so true.
So sometimes some organizations shouldn't use the word equity. I think it's where are we now? What is our biggest opportunity? And that becomes our true north, right?
I think that's so true. I think, transformation of people is hard. I mean, we often joke about it, right? Leadership development often fails. Learning about culture development, all this stuff. If we just didn't have to deal with people, right? But we do, and that's what we're trying to transform or be a part of. Let them transform, right? So where have you seen? And you can take whether it's D, I, E, and B work, or EIO. Sorry, came from the farm.
Exactly. Right.
Or you take, any kind of, because I know your work is broader. You're a leadership developer. You're a consultant asked to do more than this. So I'm not trying to pigeonhole anything. I just know your expertise that we wanted to kind of suck the marrow of on one part. But where have you seen any people transformation work? And what was common there?
That's a very good question, David. I think the biggest transformational work are those who accept their self of who they are and where they are. I think part of this journey, part of this mantra, part of this challenge within that work of, DEI, B, A, whatever words you are, is that they're scared to be bad, right? I don't want to be the bad person, the bad guy. I don't want to say the bad thing. If I think this, does it make me bad? And it's not a part of you. And I think when people can separate the identity of what I think or what I process, that it doesn't make me a bad person, I think that's when the work can be effectively done.
How do we create a space for that?
Trust. I mean, I hate to say that, but really it's trust. It's safety and really out of that is okay to fail. Right. There was a situation what I had one time and someone, it probably wasn't the most productive. You probably heard people say that, if you failed, that means you've tried. Probably wasn't the most productive thing to do. Right. And it could have went significantly worse in this situation. And the boss got very upset. Like, I can't believe this is bad. I'm like, I don't think it's bad. Right. I'm not going to say no harm, no foul. I'm not going to go that far. But what I'll say is this is a coaching opportunity. If they think anything they try, you could say it for kids, you can say it for adults, you can say it in leadership, that if they think it's okay in trying, which then leaves room to say, okay, if I say something wrong and I do something wrong, that you're going to give me that empathy or that grace, then I'll continue to try. And I think that's the missing opportunity of letting people fail forward, right? Letting people allow the space of then asking questions and then actually learning how to coach, right? So part of that is, I think that's what makes me unique in my business is that I coach along the way. I don't consult as well. I actually do coaching exercises. And matter of fact, I had a leader one time that was like, you're different than any other consultant I've had. And that is, I just don't give the plan and walk away. I say, okay, how can we implement this and change? And where are the opportunities of behaviors and patterns that need to be broken? So, yeah.
I love that. So many people, they want help. Like they want, if we don't give it to them, you can have given this assessment, you can give in that, but if it's everybody's being asked to do more with less, they're overwhelmed. If you can actually help them get there.
Hey, it's Ann with the Trust Edge team here. As you know, we are passionate about helping you and your team perform at your best. And that's why David wrote his new book, Trusted Leader. This true-to-life parable follows the story of a CEO who uncovers the root issue threatening his organization's success. And in the back half of the book, David provides a roadmap for even how to solve those root issues. Get Trusted Leader for your team, your organization, or even just for yourself at trustedleaderbook.com.
I know you as an excellent coach. What other, do you have another tip or two on what makes a great coach?
One of the things I've noticed that I've had interns work for me now, or people that, I've helped and mentored along the way, is I say, ask one more question. That's probably the number one that I do, is that when you think you understand, ask one more time. Ask one more question, lean in one more time just for clarification. So that's my number one, is ask one more question. I would say the number two that I love that has done miraculously, and I thought it was, when I got certified, I thought it was the cheesiest question ever, to be quite honest, David. And that is there anything else to feel complete? It sounds quirky, but it's amazing. And what that is there any, sometime, when you have conversations and you're thinking, you're like, should I ask that? No, I shouldn't. Maybe this isn't time. She didn't give permission. Or you're like, okay, whatever that has brought your subconscious to your conscious, and you think it's not part of the conversation, it has to be if it came to your conscious. And so it's that space to allow, is there anything else to feel complete that has done miraculous work? So I always leave time at the end to ask that question. So I'm not leading, right? Not trying to tell you to lead it, right? Like if this interview was over, is there anything else to feel complete? Well, he didn't ask me. Well, you know what? Yes, this is on the, subconscious of my mind that has come forward of, I'm thinking this. So those two, I think, will go a long way in coaching of, and of course, listen less, but I would say lean in, ask one more question. Yeah.
And with that, I'll ask you another question.
Okay, sounds great.
Let me know if you're ready for one, Kent. All right. So, we talk a lot about in our work and, as trusted leaders seeking to be trusted leaders, you have to lead yourself. You're leading and you're influencing a lot of people that are influencing a lot of others. What are you doing to lead yourself? Maybe there's a routine or just something you're doing.
Spend time with myself. I mean, that's really it. People are scared to actually spend time with themselves and find that time. And especially with the pandemic, if it's the bathroom, if it has to be the bathroom, right? And shut the door, but really finding some time within, and I would say I am an advocate of journaling, but finding that time to write the thoughts out to make it action. There's plenty of studies, and you've probably seen them, of how writing things down, not even typing, but actually writing things down, become more clear, more vision of getting those things out of what you're feeling. So I think that's very important as far as a habit for me of finding that quiet time.
I think it's 3 of the last 4 episodes, or at least interviews that I've done, the leader, the guest has said journaling, how valuable journaling is to get clear. I remember I read a book, it was part of a college course that said Write to Learn. That was the book. And it is like how you learn by writing. And also what you just said about writing instead of typing, how I think, if I remember the statistic right, you remember 33% more of what you write than type because connects with your reticular activating system in your brain. Someone else can tell you what that means. I just know the data.
Right, exactly. I'm with you. I am with you on that.
So, no, that's great. So, and tell me that, get personal here a little bit, but do you have that you'll share I see great leaders are healthy, physically, relationally, in other ways, maybe spiritually or whatever. Is there any other habit or routine? I know you have many, but is there any other habit you'd say that here's how I stay healthy so I can serve others? I remember for me, when I lost physically 52 pounds, I was able to handle 189 flights a year a whole lot better and serve people better, as one example. Like it matters because physical, all these things tie together so much in how we help others. Any way you're routinely staying healthy in some way that we could learn from?
That's a good question. I think there's a balance in all of that, right? So for me, there's spiritual health and what I need. And, there's the physical that you talked about. But then there's the kind of like emotional. I think what drains me the most, that if it's not balanced, and I didn't realize, was just the environment of serving. I know that sounds kind of funny. Like, it didn't hit me at one point in my life. I wasn't serving, right? I'm always in some serving capacity. That will throw me off at equilibrium, and then probably the second. So I'm always doing something from a servant standpoint of way in which I can give back to the community. I know that's important. So you got to find that one thing that probably creates a residual effect. I think being healthy is important, but in that healthy is, you got to find your healthy.
Right.
Like, there's different things. So there's different things that I can say that I do, but that's for my own body because I have like an autoimmune disease, right? So the things that I need for my autoimmune will be different than someone else that, I can say I do this. But I would say is find the thing in which would take you off equilibrium of your happiness or your peace. And I think that's it for me. If I was in a place where I didn't feel like I was helping someone else or feeding within the next probably of what I can give, that would be hard for me.
This is very interesting, and very few people have answered the question. I don't think anybody has, near like this. And it's so interesting because I just read, and I don't have this study in my head, but basically the one of the top ways out of depression, according to this paper, so I'm giving one source only here, but was volunteerism and service. This health to if people are depressed or, like you said, and maybe emotionally, maybe this is something just not to give to get, but it is something interesting that it helps us when we think of others, serve others. I think it was just interesting. I wish I had that study right in front of me to share this moment, but certainly.
It says a lot, and I didn't notice it, and I was trying to figure out what is it. I felt, lack of a better word, empty, really. And I realized that I wasn't doing as much service. I'll tell you, for those who are listening in the Twin Cities area, I've moved around. This is the 7th state I've lived in, and not even counting the city. There's great service. I'm doing a plug, opportunities. There's, volunteermatch.org, right? There's so many things that you can give back that people are in need right now, even more than ever, especially within the Twin Cities, of needing help.
Give us one. What's one of your favorite places you've served at that time over the last 10 years? What's a service opportunity you've grasped and enjoyed and been fulfilled by, maybe?
Honestly, is the ones in which I just look for and find. I remember making mittens. So my kids and I made mittens for the homeless. We have made the sandwiches for the homeless. But I think the one that I think was amazing is we were driving through the cities and my daughter noticed the homeless. And it was a while that they did it for a while. They would get up in the mornings on their own accord and make sandwiches, would have water, and my husband would drive them to the areas where the homeless were. And so it doesn't, you don't have to go and volunteer match. You can just go up the street and finding opportunity. But I would say those are the big. I love nursing homes too. So I just joined. So I'm back. I took a hiatus a little bit, but I'm on the board for a nursing home that specializes in seniors that have Alzheimer's. And that's near and dear. My grandmother has Alzheimer's. So I'm on the board for that now and looking at opportunity. I just had my first board meeting this past month.
Wow. And I know your husband's on a great board, maybe more that are helping young men. And you as a family, you're serving others and always thinking that way. So that's cool. As we look at leadership for you, and you've walked with leaders and been a leader, but how do you? I guess what I would say is, how do you inspire or motivate others?
If that was myself talking, I would say I'm flesh and blood. If you were to ask others, maybe the answer will be different. So that's very challenging to answer that question, because I think we all have the imposter syndrome at times, right? Yeah. What am I doing, right? Kind of what you're saying. I'm just a speaker. But I think what I've heard people say is I give them hope. I think that's what I hear. Hope that they can be better. Empowerment probably is another word that I hear. And I think it's because everyone wants their voice to be heard. There's an activity I used to do on retreats. And I took it from, and I didn't create it myself, of Indigenous people. They used to have the talking stick, and they used to have a pole. Of course, it was a women's retreats that I would do. I made it kind of more feminine, and I had a tiara and a staff. And I would let them put the tiara on their head, and I would say, okay. And the person holding the tiara, wearing the tiara, is the one who only speaks. And it's an amazing activity, right? You've probably had that activity of just being able to speak, where people are like, well, I'm being heard. And I listen, right? It's that going back to the coaching, asking one more question where I'm not giving a statement.
Love it.
Yeah.
Kent, our producer, has a question. It's time. Kent time. Here we go.
It's Kent time.
Kent, show your face, though. We got to see. There we go.
Hi, Kent.
Hey, Kendra. So my question was, when you're going into these organizations, these companies, and you're working with like maybe senior leadership teams and stuff like that, how do you deal with buy-in? Like maybe there's some people that are like, we need change in whatever way, and some people that are just like, we don't need it, or I don't need it, or something like that. How do you get that buy-in to be able to actually create the change that needs to happen?
That's funny that you said that. I am getting in is the easier, like once I'm in is the easier part. It's getting in is the hard part for me, honestly. My conversion rate, once they actually talk to me, is pretty good, Kent, which is surprising. Like my conversion rate is like 80% or something like that. So I have a high conversion rate. I think the thing is I give them the ability to say, why are you going so fast? Where are you going? Where are you heading? Right? Like, well, we got to do this. And I think they feel the pressure of society, right? Well, we have to do this, and they do this, and we have to say this. And I said, where is that coming from? Who is telling you you have to? Let's just start. Let's just breathe and let's just see where we start. And it's like, really? Like, I don't sell them my package. So I really don't like doing RFPs, to be quite honest, because RFPs are pages long, and you got to do this, and they want to do this. And like, slow down, breathe. Why do you have so much? And that's my favorite question. So other consultants or leaders is, what's the one thing you want to do to make a difference? Right? I simplify it for them, right? I let them breathe a little bit, and let's pick the one thing. So I think that's the buy-in, is for them to say, okay, she's going to be patient with me. And she's not going to force some package down my throat. And she's going to really say, okay, what do I need? What do we need? And it's okay to take it at the pace I want to.
So this just made me think of something else that I've seen. And I appreciate that. It maybe has happened to you. Tell me if this could be a true possibility or not. There's, you're asked to do diversity inclusion work, and you have a group of people that aren't very diverse, and their arms are crossed, and they have to be there. And it's like, how do you, how do you get buy-in then? because you have something you and I both know we believe is important. I have with trust. I end up leading with research, but let's just say it's happened where it's a very homogenous group, and they're judging, and they're at least you feel it. You try not to make assumptions yourself, but their arms are crossed. Everything they show is, I have to be here, and I don't care, and I'm just going to get through this stuff that we're made to do. How do you help? I'm thinking of someone very specific that just like, oh, please see this truth,
David, those are the ones that excite me. I mean, really, I'd rather have that than people that are overambitious and then they create false failure, right? I call it false failure because they created it for themselves. I had a gentleman walk up to me one time. It was training though. And he said, I am not going to listen to your secular psychobabble. Or propaganda. It wasn't psychobabble. I don't want to listen to your secular propaganda.
And now
Didn't know me, nothing about me. And I said, great, I'm glad you're here. And he was like, did you hear me? I was like, I did. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm like, great, but I'm glad you're here. And it's just one of those, I saw my, talk about backdrop. I've seen like even my dad's mom, how she was just amazing. Like the way she could charm, and then the way maybe she'll go behind closed doors and really state how she feels was amazing to me, or just getting past yourself. And so it's not about me. You crossing your arms don't hurt my feelings. You having a scowl on your face has nothing to do with me. Right?
I wish I was as strong as you.
Yeah. It has everything to do with you and not me. And it's, and there's times, David, I think you've met me and, I've told the truth of I'm going to still get paid. So it's up to you and what you want. Now, one of the things I do ask though, and that's very important, talk about the backdrop, is why am I here? That's a very important question to me. How did it get to the point that you're paying extra money for someone to come in? And so that's a very important question. How did I get here? Can you help me lead me up to the time where you said, I want to have a third party person come in? And that's an important answer for me. And so if the person's crossing their arms saying, well, because this XYZ incident happened, well, tell me about that incident. What do you think should be done in that incident? And why do you think it should be me? So it's leaning in, asking more questions than saying, well, I can fix it. No, I'm not saying I'm going to fix it. I want to say, I want you to think about it. And why do you think that I will be the resolution to that? And so that's where I get people talking and understanding. So it becomes more of a coaching session than me having a sales session of them talking through, of saying, well, maybe it's not me. And that's happened before. I've been in a situation where they said, oh, no, this is so bad. And it was an African-American employee and they complained. And I said, I don't think you have a race issue. You have a communication issue. And lo and behold, we had started some work it was very baseline of they couldn't even communicate how they feel. And they're like, oh, we have some work to do. Yeah, well, come back if you want to do some more. And I'm okay with that. And so I think that's what it is of, I'm not here to change anyone's mind because they're grown adults. I think the biggest thing is meet them where they are. So it's okay if you cross your arms because I'll still be me at the end of the day. That's an
impressive, noble way of looking at the world and people. That's powerful. Yeah. So, well, we have so much we could cover and touch on, but before the lightning round, is there anything else to feel complete?
Oh, look at you, David! You're a wonderful student. Look at you. I think for me to feel complete, and talking about that backdrop a little bit, I don't know. It's just on my mind, and it's probably come up is. I spoke at my father's funeral, and my mother just told me the story 2 weeks ago. And the only reason came up is because my godson, talk about, odd, is that he just graduated from the police academy a week ago. And we were having a long conversation of, he calls me auntie. He doesn't call me godmom. He's like, auntie. He was like, this feels different because, he's in the South. And now he's a police officer. And I remember, wiping his butt, type of thing. And so he was like, it feels different. And he grew up as a military kid. And he said, this is different. He was like, I want you to help me. And what did it feel like being, a policeman's daughter? And then definitely, like you said, a brown girl, right? And it's a fishbowl. I said, it's a different type of fishbowl that, I told him the biggest thing for him is don't think when you have civilian clothes that people don't know who you are. They will always know who you are. And that's how your life changes. And so I grew up with that because my dad they thought it would be cool to hire two Black police officers at the same time. As they went through that, they thought, okay, they can go through this together. And, actually, ironically, they say the same for interracial, multicultural adoption, ironically. But I think as a leader and looking at that is that, one, my dad never complained. The only thing my dad ever told me is that in this world, you have good people and bad people. And it doesn't matter what environment you're in. You can be in the church, you can be at the college, the state school is in the middle of nowhere, that there's good and bad. And it's your choice in what you see. But also is realize that someone is always watching. And I think as leaders, we forget that. And also thinking even in the good, that could be the bad, in that. So that was probably on my mind, and looking at that of what made it different. And I did say that at his eulogy, not once did he narrow it down to a group, right? He never said women, Blacks, Asian. He always just said, just understand your environment and understand there's good, bad, there's all different, and they all have that same cloth of what their intentions are. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I got to jump for one more question here before we hit the lightning round because I'm not complete without it either. Now that I'm thinking about things, so what are you learning now? What are you learning and thinking about the most right now?
Probably the biggest thing for me is we always talk about the history meaning of the past, and that's always been intriguing. So I can tell you tons of quote unquote history of the past. But I think what I've seen in this time for this month is the history of the present and the legacy in which you bring, and looking at it in a different lens is, I think, interesting for me. And so looking at it that way. So there will always be first. I think they're like, when will it stop when we won't have first? It won't be. It'll be always the first of something. But realizing that first does then place a stamp on history. And so I think I'm looking at what am I doing currently, or what is happening now currently, that even what happened in Minneapolis that is going to be in the history books, right? And then what am I doing, kind of like John Lewis, to be on the good side of history, right? And try to understand that. So that's probably impacted me more than ever of, not just the past, but the present, and what difference is that making for the history moving forward.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. Kendra Dodd, so much here.
This has been awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
look
you.
at this. Now we have a lightning round. You got to get ready. You only get one.
I know. This
one
is gonna
sentence each. Here we go. But before that, think about this. Give grace and empathy. Love the backdrop. Your emotional, as far as your key habit was being a part of service or an environment of service, journaling. I really like this, and I think people should look up the 7 chapters from before you're born till now, and significant events, and knowing yourself. That kind of goes with our trust shield idea a little bit. The way we use the trust shield to know yourself as a leader, and then to share that vulnerably. I love that. Great coaches. There's 2 questions for you from Kendra Dodd. 1, when you think you know, ask one more question. And number 2, is there anything else that would anything else that would make this feel complete or help
Yes.
you feel complete?
Yes.
So much more. Why am I here? Dad never complained. There's good and bad people, so don't narrow the group. Love it. And a whole lot more.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's quick fire questions to close us out, and then a final question about being a trusted leader. But number one,
Okay.
what's a favorite book or resource right now?
The Big Leap. It's a book. It's called The Big Leap. I
Great.
forgot who the author is.
All right, Big League. One sentence about the book.
Oh, one sentence about the book is that we have our own self-limiting,
Okay,
that we limit ourselves.
great. Something Kendra can't live without.
This is really hard, and I thought about it. I can't live without reading.
Ah, good. I like it. I love it. And you can't live without, I know, your family or faith or a lot of other things, but that is a great one, without reading.
Yes.
Best or just a piece of advice or favorite quote?
If nothing changes, nothing changes.
So true. I'm writing that down right now again.
Yeah.
If nothing changes, nothing changes. It's so true. Okay.
Yes.
And one thing left on the bucket list, or one hope for the future?
Is that everybody can be one step further out of their comfort zone. I think that would make a difference in the world.
Okay, I'm jumping off the grill here again and saying, how are you doing that? How are you getting one step off I have the latitude. I can go off the quick fire question, even though Kent's like, hey, we're out of time. How are you doing it? We need to figure out how to do this. How are you having one step further out of your comfort zone?
You know what? That can be every day, David. I think what's helping me do it is I have accountability partners.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's something, you literally can be one step out of your comfort zone every day. And I'm doing that. I'm having someone that I have to be held accountable to. I think that's the key, is having accountability partner.
Love it. We talk about it. We need it. Healthy accountability can transform teams and individuals.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. Before our final question, where can everybody hear more or find you? Where's the best place to find more about Kendra Dodd?
I think the best place to find me is if you have a LinkedIn account, is going to LinkedIn, KendraQDodd.com. That's a whole nother podcast for the Q, David. But you can go there. Also, Instagram is more personal. You can go on Instagram. If you want to know what my professional work looks like, you can go to KendraQDodd.com. If you don't remember, KendraQ.com or fulfilledtobe.com.
We'll put that
to find more of my work.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, fulfilled to be, because it's spelled really cool. I
It
didn't
is.
spend as much time as I'd like on this, and I know there's a big backdrop here, but can you give us a glimpse? Fulfilled to be, tell us about it.
Actually, it's about legacy. So my father's name was Phil. So I did a play on words. So, for Phil. And that's, this is for him. He did a lot of things and pioneer and things. So for Phil, and then to be, at that time when I started the organization, is both of my two children with the name B. And so it's all about legacy and looking at it from what he wants and what I want from them. So now I have 3 Bs, but it's to my Bs, to my children that I want to leave behind. So it's all about legacy. That's what it's about. And the fulfill is looking outside of your, it's spelled differently, but it's not spelled wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just in the UK version. And so I intentionally did that as well. So thank you for asking.
Yes, and that will be in the show notes, just trustedleadershow.com. You'll find everywhere you can connect with the amazing Kendra Dodd. So it is the final question.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Let's
trusted.
see. Drum roll.
Here we go. It's the Trusted Leader Show. Who's a leader you trust and why?
I've thought about all the leaders in my life. There's mentors in my life, they're leaders, but the leader right now that if I was, I don't like crowds, but I would stand in line to really see that I think has done amazing work is Indra Nooyi with PepsiCo. She was the president. She just retired last year. And what amazes me about Indra is she was very transparent and real of the challenges and her life. And that's the first time I saw a leader do that unapologetically, but also truthfully of what the challenges are. And so Indra Nooyi, I think, is with PepsiCo, when I see a leader and what I would like to live up to be, is her.
I wrote about her and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Fantastic example. Well, this has been a special treat. Kendra, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you for sharing with our audience. Thanks for being a trusted leader, and thanks for being a friend. This has been the Trusted Leader Show. Until next time, stay trusted.